Good morning, everyone. Myself, Rohit Kulkarni. As all of you know, we are going to see Science 1, lesson number 5, heat. Already, we have completed our lesson number 5. We have seen all the points, and yesterday we have seen the exercise. We have started the exercise. From that, we have near about first 5 questions we have completed. We have seen the questions and answers of the first 5 questions. Now today what we'll do, we'll start from question number 6. You can, if you have textbook, you can open page number 71 of your textbook. So we will start from question number 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll complete first all the remaining questions, and then we'll once again we'll revise yesterday's 5 questions, right? So you can open page number 71. Question number 6, explain the following. Now see, in that the first question is, what is the role of anomalous behavior of water in preserving aquatic life in regions of cold climate? Dear students, if you see, we have seen already. We have seen answer of such type of questions while we are revising the lesson. So maybe you know the answers for that, but then also we will revise it and we'll see a proper answer for it. So the question is, what is the role of anomalous behavior of water in preserving aquatic life in region of cold climate? Now see, what is the answer for this? First, we'll write down the definition. The behavior of water between its temperature from 0 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius is called anomalous behavior of water. So first, we are going to write down the definition of anomalous behavior of water. Then we'll begin with our answer. So the answer for role of anomalous behavior of water in preserving aquatic life. Always remember that whenever you are writing answers, write in point wise. So the first point, in winter, as the temperature of the atmosphere goes down, due to which the water of the surface also cools down, right? So in winter, what happens as the temperature of the atmosphere goes down or as decreases, due to which the water of the surface also cools down. So this is our point number 1. As a result, the temperature of whole water body decreases to 4 degrees Celsius. So because what happens because of in winter, whatever the temperature of whole water is there, it decreases to 4 degrees Celsius. Now, as water on the surface at 4 degrees Celsius cool down further, its volume increases and density also increases. On reaching the temperature at 0 degrees Celsius, water transforms into ice. So as the temperature is decreasing, so when it decreases from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius, on reaching the temperature at 0 degrees Celsius, water transform into ice. So whatever the ice is, water is there, it starts converting into the ice cubes. The process of cooling becomes slow due to the low thermal conductivity of ice. Means ice is a bad conductor of heat. It is written in the bracket. Thus, a temperature of 4 degrees Celsius is always maintained. In normal conditions, the temperature goes on increasing, and this whole process preserves the aquatic life even in cold region. So if it is required, you can draw the diagram which is given there, which is shown increasing temperature and density. So the temperature also, so otherwise you can write down the answer in point wise. So this is the answer for the first question. What is the role of anomalous behavior of water in preserving aquatic life in regions of cold climate? So as I already told you, first write down the definition. The behavior of water between its temperature from 0 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius is called anomalous behavior of water. Now we'll write down the role of anomalous behavior of water in preserving aquatic life. So first point, in winter, as the temperature of the atmosphere goes down, due to which the water of the surface also cools down. Point number 2, as a result, the temperature of whole water body decreases to 4 degrees Celsius. Now, as water on the surface at 4 degrees Celsius cools down further, its volume increases and density also increases. On reaching the temperature at 0 degrees Celsius, the water transforms into ice. So as temperature goes down till 0 degrees Celsius, water converts into or transforms into ice. The process of cooling becomes slow due to the low thermal conductivity of ice, and thus a temperature of 4 degrees Celsius is always maintained. In normal conditions, the temperature goes on increasing, and this whole process preserves the aquatic life even in cold region. Clear? So this is the answer for the question number 6, first one, A. Clear? So if you want, you can you can screenshot and you can keep it. Then we will move on the second question, B. Question number 6B. Explain the following. So we'll see what is the question. How can you relate the formation of water droplets on the outer surface of a bottle taken out of refrigerator with formation of dew? If you remember, already we have seen answer for this question when we are seeing when we have studied the whole lesson. In that also the same question was there. So once again, just I will see the answer for this. The water vapor of the air depends on the specific temperature. So the first point you're going to write, the water vapor of the air depends upon the specific temperature. Now we are going to write the definition for dew point and saturated with vapor. So definition for dew point is there: an unsaturated air at a certain temperature is taken and its temperature is decreased. A temperature is reached at which the air becomes saturated with water vapor. This temperature is called dew point temperature. So already we have seen the definition, just you have to mention it. Then saturated with vapor. If the amount of air exceeds this limit, the excess water vapor converts into water droplets. And when the air contains maximum possible water vapor, it is said to be saturated with vapor at that temperature, right? So when the air is said to be saturated, when the air contains maximum amount of water vapor, during that time it is said to be saturated with vapor at that temperature. Now, so these are the definitions of dew point. And now if we take a water bottle out of refrigerator, we will observe tiny water droplets on it. Now the answer begins. This means due to decrease in temperature, the air cools down, right? So what we are doing, we are taking out water bottle out of refrigerator. It means what happens, the temperature decreases, so there water, that is why the air cools. It becomes saturated with water vapor. As a result, the excess water vapor gets converted into tiny droplets. So excess water vapor which are present on the water bottle, it gets converted into tiny droplets, and the dew point temperature is decided by the amount of water vapor present in the air. So the whatever the dew point temperature is there, how it depends or it is decided by the amount of water vapor present in the air. So in this way you can write down the answer for the question number 2. How can you relate the formation of water droplets on the outer surface of a bottle taken out of refrigerator with the formation of dew? Clear? Then we'll move on the third question, question number C. Already this and the answer for this question also we have seen. In cold region in winter, the rock cracks due to the anomalous expansion of water. So say answer. So first we will write down the definition for anomalous behavior of expansion of water. So water contracts when heated from 0 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius instead of expanding, and water expands when cooled from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius. And this expansion of water from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius is called anomalous expansion of water. Clear? Now the answer. Now in colder season or in cold seasons, the temperature drops to 4 degrees Celsius. This means water starts to expand. As there is no place for water to expand inside the rock, it exerts a high pressure on the rocks, right? So as there is no place for the water to expand inside the rock because it is totally blocked. So what happens, it exerts pressure on the rocks, and as a result what happens, the rock breaks down. So this is the answer for the question number C. These questions are only asked, can be asked only asked for the 2 marks. So go through that properly. Clear? So this is about question number 6, A, B, C. Now we'll see question number 7. In that also 4 questions are asked. Answer the following. Now see what is question number 1. What is meant by latent heat? In that again one more question is asked. How will the state of matter transform if latent heat is given off? So 2 questions are there. So first we'll see if the answer for the first, what is meant by latent heat. We'll write down the definition. Now see the amount of heat energy required by any substance to convert from one state to another state is called the latent heat. And how will the state of matter transform latent heat is given off? So there are 2 types of latent heat. The first one is latent heat of fusion, and the second one is latent heat of vaporization. So we have seen the definitions already, just we'll revise here. So when latent heat of fusion is applied, the substance changes from solid phase to liquid phase. This means the substances absorb heat energy which is used to break the bond of the solid atoms and transform it into liquid phase. Remember what is given. When latent heat of fusion is applied, the substances changes from solid phase to liquid phase. It means what? The substances absorb heat energy, which is used to break the bonds of solid atom and transform them into liquid. So this is about latent heat of fusion. Then second point is latent heat of vaporization. So here what happens? When latent heat of vaporization was applied, the water in liquid state transform into gaseous state. So here liquid changes to gaseous. This means the water absorbs heat energy, which is used to break the bonds of the liquid molecule and convert the liquid into gaseous state. If you see, the definitions are same as I told you, but in fusion what happens, the solid phase is converted to liquid phase, and in vaporization what happens, the liquid is converted to gases, that is water is converted into gases. So this is the answer for the question number 7th, first one. What is meant by latent heat, and how will you this how will the state of matter transform if latent is given off? So in this way you can write down the answer for the question number 7th A. Clear? Now we'll move on the second question. Question number B. So question number 7B is, which principle is used to measure the specific heat capacity of a substances? Right. So the question is, which principle is used to measure the specific heat capacity of substances? So the principle of heat capacity: if heat is exchanged between hot and cold object, the temperature of the cold object increases, means energy is gained, and the temperature of the hot object decreases, energy is lost. Already we have seen this. If heat is exchanged between the hot object and the cold object, then the temperature of the cold object increases and the temperature of the hot object decreases. So this is the first point. Second point, until the object attain the same value, the temperature continues to change. So the temperature continues to change until the both the objects attain the same value. If the system of both the objects is isolated and closed in a heat resistant box, then no energy can flow from inside the box or come into the box. Already we have seen about this point. If the system of both the objects is isolated or closed in a heat resistant box, then no energy can flow from inside the box or come into the box. And in this we get the following principle. In this condition we get the following principle. So the principle is, heat energy lost by the hot object is equals to heat energy gained by the cold object. So in this way you're going to write down the answer for the question number B. Which principle is used to measure the specific heat capacity of a substance? So the principle of heat capacity. So first we will write down the definition. If heat is exchanged between the hot object and the cold object, the temperature of the cold object increases and the temperature of the hot object decreases. Until the objects attain the same value, the temperature continues to increase or continues to change. If the system of both the object is isolated and closed in a heat resistant box, then no energy can flow from inside the box or come into the box. And in this condition we get the following principle, that is, heat energy lost by the hot object is equals to heat energy gained by the cold object. So main points you can underline in the answer. Clear? So this is the answer for the B question. Now we'll see next question number C. Explain the role of latent heat in the change of state of a substances. Now see what is given. The role of latent heat in the change of state of substances are. So here also 2 points are given. The first one is latent heat of fusion, and second one is latent heat of vaporization. So already we have seen the definition, just we have to repeat once again. The latent heat of fusion helps to transform any substances from solid state to liquid state by absorbing heat energy at constant temperature during transformation. So this the same definition you can write, which already you have seen. The latent heat of fusion helps to transform any substances from solid phase to liquid state by absorbing heat energy at constant temperature during transformation. Then latent heat of vaporization. The latent heat of vaporization helps to transform any liquid substances from liquid state to gaseous state. Liquid substance changes from liquid state to gaseous state by absorbing heat energy at constant temperature during transformation. So in this way you can write down the answer for the question number C. Explain the role of latent heat. Then in that answer the following. The last question is, on what basis and how will you determine whether air is saturated with vapor or not? So the answer for it is, to determine whether air is saturated with vapor or not, it is based on the temperature of the air. So remember this, to say or to determine whether the air is saturated with vapor or not, it is based on the temperature of the air. So we should know the temperature of the air. If the temperature of air is low, then the air is saturated with less vapor. Remember this, if the temperature of, otherwise if air temperature is low, then the air is saturated with less vapor. If the air temperature is high, the air is saturated with additional water vapor or more vapor vapor. If the vapor contained in air is less than the maximum limit, then the air is said to be unsaturated. Clear? So this is the answer for the question number 7. On what basis and how will you determine whether air is saturated with vapor or not? So it depends on what? It depends upon the temperature of air. So that is why we have written the first point. To determine whether air is saturated with vapor or not, it is based on the temperature of the air. If the air temperature is low, the air is saturated with less vapor. If the air temperature is high, the air is saturated with more or additional water vapor. And if the vapor contained in air is less than the maximum limit, then the air is said to be unsaturated. So these are the answer for the all the 4 questions from question number 7, A, B, C, D. Right. So go through that. Now we'll see next question, question number 8. Right. Now, if you see question number 8, one paragraph is given. So we have to read that paragraph first, and then on that paragraph, the 4 questions are asked, and we have to answer that all the 4 questions. So first we'll read out the paragraph, and then we'll see one by one each questions. Now see, read the following paragraph and answer the questions. If heat is exchanged between a hot and cold object, the temperature of the cold object goes on increasing due to gain of energy, and the temperature of the hot object goes on decreasing due to loss of energy. The change in temperature continues till the temperature of both the objects attain the same temperature or same value. In this process, the cold object gains heat energy and the hot object loses heat energy. If the system of both the object is isolated from the environment by keeping it inside the heat resistant box, meaning that the energy exchange takes place between the two objects only, then no energy can flow from inside the box or come into the box. Right now, if you see, already we have seen this paragraph. Already we have seen. Now, the same questions are asked depending on this paragraph. Now, first we'll go through or read all the 4 questions and then we'll see the answer for each one. Now, see, what is the first question? Heat is transferred from where to where? Second question, which principle do we learn about from this process? Question number 3, how will you state the principle briefly? And fourth question, which property of the substance is measured using this principle? So maybe you are familiar with the answers because already we have seen this question so many times. So first question is, heat is transferred from where to where? Now see, answer for that is, heat energy exchange takes between the two objects only. Because a system is isolated, has no interaction with the surrounding, so no energy can flow from inside the box or come into the box. So heat exchange takes place between only two objects, that is hot object and cold object. Two objects means hot and cold. So heat energy exchange takes place between the two objects only, that is hot and the cold object. Because this system is isolated, has no interaction with the surrounding, so no energy can flow from inside the box or come into the box. So this is the answer for the first question. Then question number 2, which principle do we learn about from this process? So which principle do we learn from this process? So the principle which we learn from this process is, heat energy lost by a hot object is equals to heat energy gained by the cold object, right? So this is just a repeat of the same questions and same answers. If you have seen so many times, we have seen this question answer, just we are repeating it. Now, so the answer for the second question is, the principle which we learn from this process is, heat energy lost by the hot object is equals to heat energy gained by the cold object. Clear? Then question number 3, how will you state the principle briefly. So in short, we have to tell. So see what is this. In this principle, the cold object gain heat energy and the hot objects loses heat energy. The first point. Second point, if the system becomes isolated by using a heat resistant box, then the heat energy takes place between the two objects only. As a result, no energy can flow from inside the box or come into the box, because we are using the heat resistant box. In this situation, we get the following principle. So same PO principle is there. Heat energy lost by the hot object is equals to heat energy gained by the cold object. So answer for the second and third is same, just we have to write in detail. In second one, just we have to write down the principle. Clear? And the last question is, which property of a substance is measured using this principle? So which property is used using this principle? That we, the answer for this is, the specific heat of a substance is measured using this principle, right? What is the answer for the first one? The specific heat capacity or the specific heat of the substance is measured using this principle. The specific heat of the substance is measured by mixing method. For this, calorimeter is used. So both answers you can write. So which property of a substance is measured using this principle? So this is the paragraph based questions and answers. So the paragraph will be given to you. So just this is one example is given. So any paragraph will be given, and the questions can be asked depending on that paragraph. Just you have to read the paragraph properly. You should have the proper knowledge of that paragraph, then only you can answer it, right? So here we have completed our question number 8. Now we will move on the last question, that is solve the following problems, which is very important. Yeah, so the first question is, first we'll read out the question. Equal heat is given to two objects, A and B, of mass 1 gram. Temperature of A increases by 3 degrees Celsius and B by 5 degrees Celsius. Which object has more specific heat and by what factor? So you see here, whatever the examples are given, so you have to read the question properly. First you have to understand, then you have to write down what is given. You should able to find out what is given and what we have to find out. That is the most important thing. Now if you see here what is given, so we'll go through the answer first. The specific heat is the amount of heat per unit mass required to raise the temperature by 1 degree Celsius. So first we are going to write down the formula. So it is given by the formula Q is equals to M into C into delta T. Right, already we have seen, and the same formula you are going to convert. So we have to find out specific heat. So if you convert the formula, so formula will be C is equals to Q upon M into delta T. So we are going to convert this formula, where Q means amount of heat added. Already we have seen the T is the temperature, C is the specific heat, and small m is the mass of mass. Clear? Now let's say two objects. Now already two objects are given, A and B, and the mass is given. The mass of both the object is same, that is 1 gram, and the temperature of A and B is also given. So that is given. Now then the ratio of the specific heat of the two objects is given by Ca upon Cb. So just in the above formula, we are going to write Ca. Ca means specific heat of object A, and Cb means specific heat of object B. Right? So see what will be the formula. Ca upon Cb is equals to Qa upon Ma delta Ta divided by QB upon MB into delta TB. Now maybe you understood the meaning of A and B. A stands for object A and B stands for object B. Now we'll solve this. So what will become? Ca upon Cb is equals to, now whatever the denominator portion is there, just so what will become? Qa into MB, mass of object B, multiplied by delta TB divided by QB multiplied by Ma, mass of A into delta Ta. Now here first, as per the question, equal heat is given to the two objects A and B of mass 1 gram. So here mass is same, right? So what will come? Ca upon Cb is equals to 5 upon 3. It is given, temperature given. So Qa and Qb and MB will be cancelled. So Ca upon Cb is equals to 5 upon 3. Now after dividing, the answer is 1.66 approximately. So clearly it shows that the specific heat of A is greater than B with the factor 1.66. Right. So in this way, you have to solve the first equation for first example. Clear? Once again, afterwards we'll revise. Now first we'll go through all the questions. Now question number B. Solve the following problem. Liquid ammonia is used in an ice factory for making ice from water. If water at 20 degrees Celsius is to be converted into 2 kilogram ice at 0 degrees Celsius, how many grams of ammonia is to be evaporated? Now in bracket, what is given? The latent heat of vaporization of ammonia is given, that is 341 calorie per gram. So first we'll write down the given latent heat of vaporization of ammonia is equals to 341 calorie per gram. Then mass of ammonia B, that is equals to M. How much it is given? Mass of water 2000 gram. Then change in temperature is equals to delta T is equals to 20 degrees C minus 0 degrees. So 20 minus 0 will be 20. So that is given. Now latent heat is the heat required by the ammonia for the liquid ammonia to ammonia vapor. So therefore amount of heat energy released in cooling 2 kilogram water from 20 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius, that is QW, is equals to M into C into delta T. Now Q means already you know what is the meaning of Q, and W means it is water. Where M is the mass of water, C is the specific heat or specific heat of constant volume, and delta T is the temperature difference, putting the values in the above formula. So we get Q is equals to QW. So now we are going to substitute the values. M is equals to 2000 into C1 into 20. So after multiplying, you will get the answer 40,000 calorie. Clear? So you can write down equation number 1. So amount of heat energy released during the conversion of 2 kilogram of water at 0 degrees Celsius to ice at 0 degrees Celsius, that is Q1 is equals to M into L, where M is the mass of water and L is the latent heat of conversion of water to ice. Now substitute the values in the above equation, we'll get Q1 is equals to 2000 into 80. So after multiplying, the answer is 16,000 calories. Then sorry, it is 1,60,000 calorie. Then therefore the heat gained by the ice in the due to presence of ammonia will be Q is equals to M into L. M into L means Q1 plus QW. Now substitute the values, that is 1,60,000 plus 40,000. So the answer is 2 lakh calories. So M is equals to 2 lakh divided by L. The value of L is given 341. So after dividing, you will get answer approximately 586.5 gram. So thus the process of conversion of 2 kilogram of water of ice will require evaporation of 586.5 gram of ammonia. So in this way, we are going to solve the question number 2. Clear? Now we'll move on the third problem. Now see what is the third problem. A thermally insulated pot has 150 gram ice at temperature 0 degrees Celsius. How much steam of 100 degrees Celsius has to be mixed to it so that water of temperature 50 degrees Celsius will be obtained? So here also given latent heat of melting ice, it is given 80 calorie per gram. Then latent heat of vaporization of water is given 540 calorie per gram, and specific heat of water is also given 1 calorie per gram degree Celsius. So these are the things given. So see what is the answer for this. 1 gram of ice needs 80 calorie to become water at 0 degrees Celsius. So therefore 1 gram of water needs 50 calorie to rise the 50 degrees Celsius from 0 degrees Celsius. So the total heat needed is 150 multiplied by 80 plus 150 into 50. So first, if after multiplying, you will get the answer near about 19,500 calories. Next line you have to write 1 gram of steam will supply 540 calories to become water at 100 degrees Celsius. Then 1 gram of water at 100 degrees Celsius will supply 50 calorie to become water at 50 C. Hence, X gram of steam at 100 degrees Celsius will supply 590 calorie while cooling to 50 degrees Celsius. Hence, 19,500 is equals to 590. So after solving that, you will get near about X value will be 33.05 grams approximately. Clear? So in this way, you have to solve. Now there are different methods, sir. You can solve in this way. Otherwise, you can use another method to solve the same question. Let's say by any method you can solve the example. So these are the examples for the from the textbook. Clear? So here we have seen today question number 6, 7, 8 and question number 9. Right now, just once again I will revise the few questions which we have seen yesterday. Just which are the only I'm going to repeat the important questions. I'm not going to repeat all the question. Question number 1 is filling the blanks that I'm not going to repeat. You can go through it. So the question number 2, as I told you, which is very important. Just I will repeat once again. Now see, observe the following graph. Considering the change in volume of water as its temperature is raised from 0 degrees Celsius, discuss the difference in the behavior of water and other substances and what is this behavior of water called, and the graph will be given to you. So you have to write the answer in pointwise, as already I mentioned. The given figure is the graph between the volume and the temperature of water. If the temperature of water is raised from 0 degrees Celsius, this means heating taking place. It has been observed that on melting, on heating, it contracts instead of expanding. Then at 4 degrees Celsius, due to contraction, volume decreases. And if the water is heated further, it expands and its volume increases. And the behavior of water between its temperature from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius is called anomalous behavior of water. Clear? Yesterday already we have seen this. So just I'm revising once again question number 2. Then we'll see question number 3, as I already told you, which is very important from the exam point of view. What is meant by specific heat capacity? Then how in that one more question is asked, how will you prove experimentally that different substances have different specific heat capacities? So the first we are going to write down the definition of specific heat capacity. The amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of a unit mass of a substances or object by 1 degree Celsius is called specific heat capacity of that object. Now we have to prove that experimentally. So first we are going to have to draw the diagram. So what the diagram is there in front of you. So draw the diagram properly, label it. Then we'll write the answer in point wise. So the first point is, take 3 spheres of iron, copper and lead of equal masses. Now put all the 3 spheres in boiling water in the beaker for some time. Now take them all out of the water. We will notice that all the spheres will be at temperature 100 degree Celsius, because we are going to boil water up to 100 degree Celsius. So the temperature of all the 3 spheres also will be same. Now put them immediately on the thick slab of wax. So remove them from the water and put them on the thick slab of the wax. Now after what we are going to do the next one, note the depth of each sphere into the wax. The sphere which has absorbed more heat from water will give more heat to the wax. So this is the main point. The sphere which has absorbed more heat from water will give more heat to the wax. More wax will thus melt, and deeper the sphere will go into the wax. We will notice iron goes deepest, lead sphere goes the least, and the copper sphere goes to the intermediate depth. Right? So iron goes deepest, lead sphere goes least, and the copper sphere goes to the intermediate depth. This shows that for equal rise in temperature, the 3 spheres have absorbed different amount of heat. This means that property which determines the amount of heat absorbed by a sphere is different for all the 3 spheres, and this property is called a specific heat capacity. Clear? So go through that question properly, because this question can be asked for the 5 marks. Then just we'll see question number 5. As I told you, this is also an important question. Explain the following temperature versus time graph. The graph will be given to you, and just we have to explain from the graph. Now see what is the answer for this. So temperature versus time graph. In this graph, line AB represents or shows conversion of ice into water at constant temperature. Thus AB represents ice plus water, ice and water, that is solid and liquid. The temperature remains constant during this transition. This transition temperature at which ice changes to water is called melting point of ice. So we have to write down the definition. Then line BC represents or shows the rise in temperature of water from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. And this line represents solid state is converted into liquid state. So the line BC represents the conversion of solid into liquid. Thereafter, heat energy is supplied to water. The heat energy absorbed by water, which is used to break the bonds of liquid molecules and convert the liquid into gaseous state. And the point C, just look at the point C, it represents liquid's conversion of liquid state into gaseous state. And the constant temperature at which the liquid transforms into gaseous state is called the boiling point of the liquid. And at last, the water completely changes to the water vapor. Clear? So this is the question number 5. So these are all questions are important. As I told you, question number 2nd, 3rd, 5th. Then today we have seen question number 6. In that different near about in question number 6, 3 questions were there. So all are important. And then question in question number 7, answer the following. Again, 4 questions we have seen. Clear? So go through each and every question number 6, A, B, C. Then question number 7, all 4 questions. And apart from that, we have to you have to solve the examples which are given at last. That is, solve the follow examples. They are also very important. 2 to 3 for the 2 marks or 3 marks. The question can be asked. So in this way, you have to go through each and every point from the textbook, whatever the points we have seen within this within last week or within these 2 days, whatever the points we have seen, go through each and every point. Each and every point from this lesson is very important. Question answers, because 2 to 3 times I have repeated each and every point, so maybe it is very easy for you to remember now and to understand the concepts, because 3 marks 5 marks questions can be asked from these lessons. Whatever they once read a whole lesson, understand the concept, and then you can by heart the question answers. First understand which, then go by heart it, means it will be easy for you to remember. Clear? So just question number 6A once again we'll see. What is the role of anomalous behavior of water in preserving aquatic life in regions of cold climate? So the behavior of water between its temperature from 0 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius is called anomalous behavior of water. So first we are going to write down the definition. Then we'll write down the answer for that in detail. So the role of anomalous behavior of water in preserving aquatic life. The first point, in winter, as the temperature of the atmosphere goes down, due to which the water of the surface also cools down. Clear? Second point, as a result, the temperature of the whole water body decreases to 4 degrees Celsius. Point number 3, now as water on the surface at 4 degrees Celsius cools down further, its volume increases and density also increases. Remember this point, as water on the surface of 4 degrees Celsius cools down further, its volume increases and density also increases. And on reaching the temperature at 0 degrees Celsius, water transforms into ice, and the process of cooling becomes slow due to the low thermal conductivity of ice. That in bracket it is written, ice is the bad conductor of heat. Thus the temperature of 4 degrees Celsius is always maintained. In normal condition, the temperature goes on increasing, and the whole process preserves the aquatic life even in the cold region. Yeah. Then second question is, how can you relate the formation of water droplets on the outer surface of the water bottle taken out of a refrigerator with the formation of dew? So the first point, water vapor of air depends upon the specific temperature. Then we'll write down the definition of dew point. An unsaturated air at a certain temperature is taken, its temperature is decreased. A temperature is reached at which the air becomes saturated with water vapor, and this temperature is called the dew point temperature. Then second, if the amount of air exceeds this limit, the excess water vapor converts into water droplets. When the air contains maximum possible water vapor, it is said to be saturated with vapor at that temperature. Now, if we take a water bottle out of refrigerator, we will observe the tiny water droplets on it. This means due to decrease in temperature, the air cools down. It becomes saturated with water vapor. As a result, the excess water vapor gets converted into tiny droplets, and the dew point temperature is decided by the amount of water vapor in the air. So write down whole as it is, whatever given in front of you. Then third question, we have seen in cold region in winter, the rocks cracks due to the anomalous expansion of water. So first we'll write down the definition. Water contracts when heated from 0 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius, and water expands when cooled from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius. And this expansion of water from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius is called anomalous behavior of water or anomalous expansion of water. Now in colder season or in cold season, the temperature drops to 4 degrees Celsius. This means water starts to expand. As there is no place for the water to expand inside the rocks, it exerts a high pressure on the rocks. On it, as a result, the rocks break. So this is the answer for the C1. And last one, just we'll see what is meant by latent heat and how will the state of matter transforms if latent heat is given off. So first we'll write down the definition. The amount of heat energy required by any substances to convert from one state to another state is called the latent heat. And there are two types of latent heat. One is latent heat of fusion and the second one is latent heat of vaporization. So we'll write down the definition and explanation for that. So first one is latent heat of fusion. When latent heat of fusion is applied, the substance changes from solid phase to liquid phase. This means the substances absorb heat energy which is used to break the bonds of the solid atoms and transform it into liquid phase. Right? Already we have seen fusion means from solid to liquid. Second one is latent heat of vaporization. So when latent heat of vaporization was applied, the water in the liquid state transforms into into gaseous state, and this means the water absorbs heat energy which is used to break the bonds of the liquid molecules and convert the liquid into gaseous state. Yeah. So this is the answer for the question number 7A. Then we have seen second question, which principle is used to measure the specific heat capacity of a substance. So first we'll write down the principle of heat capacity. If heat is exchanged between the hot object and the cold object, the temperature of the cold object increases and the temperature of the hot object decreases. Until the object attain the same value, the temperature continues to change. If the system of both the object is isolated and closed in a heat resistant box, then no energy can flow from inside the box or come into the box. And in this condition, we get the following principle. Heat energy lost by the hot object is equals to heat energy gained by the cold object. And this is only called as what? Principle of heat exchange. Clear? And in the same way, question number 7C, explain the role of latent heat in the change of substance. Already we have seen the answer for that. The same answer you can write down, latent heat of fusion and latent heat of vaporization. And just we'll see the last question, on what basis and how will you determine whether air is saturated with vapor or not. So to determine whether air is saturated or not with vapor or not, it is based on the temperature of the air. If the air temperature is low, the air is saturated with less vapor. If the air temperature is high, the air is saturated with additional water vapor. If the vapor contained in the air is less than the maximum limit, then the air is said to be unsaturated. Clear? So in this way, you have to write down the answer for the each and every question. Then apart from that, we have seen question number 8, the paragraph is given. So as I already told you, the paragraph will be given to you, and depending on that paragraph, the questions will be given. So first you should understand the paragraph, and then you should write down the answers for the asked question. And whatever the solved examples are given and whatever the examples are given be at last for the practice. So that also examples you have to solve it properly. Clear? So here we have completed our lesson number 5, heat. Right? Totally all the points we have covered from beginning to end. Whatever the exercise, solved examples, questions, filling the blanks, objective type, O1 part, we have covered it. So it's my request to each and every student. What you have to do, you have to read whole lesson first from beginning. You have to understand it once again. Remember, write down all the definitions, learn it. Whatever the questions are there, write on in the notebook, and then learn and read it. Yeah. So if you have any doubts related to any point, whatever we have seen, just you can ask it. Otherwise, from my point of view, I have completed each and every point from the lesson, even the exercise also completed. Just whatever the solved examples are there, just you have to practice that. So if any students have any doubt regarding any question, any point, just you can ask it. 2-3 minutes are there with us. So if any students have any doubts regarding any point, you can ask and you can. If you don't have any doubts, then we will wind up our lecture. So it's homework for you that read a whole lesson once again and go through each and every question answers which is given in the exercise. Learn it.
Students, please raise your hands if you're having any doubts. Sir has explained to you each and every question, what answer you have to write, how you have to write it point-wise, and proper points which are to be required for a particular answer. Sir has explained to you very nicely. You must have taken the screenshots also. But still, if any answer you have not understood, you can raise your hands and you can get it here. Any students, if you have not taken screenshots, which are very useful for you to complete your books. Students, all of you awake over here. All of you are listening to us. Little bit difficult chapter for you, but sir has given you with question answers each and everything. Anju Yadav, you're raising your hand. Unmute yourself. Yes, beta. Anju Yadav, you're raising your hand. Ask your doubt.
टीचर
Yes.
टीचर मुझे क्वेश्चन नहीं समझा
Beta, your voice is not clear. Can you say it again? Can you ask again?
टीचर मुझे एक वाला क्वेश्चन नहीं समझा
So did you get her?
Maybe 8th question she said.
Yes, 8 questions she's saying. Yeah.
See here, what is given question number 8? Read the following paragraph and answer the question. If you see on page number 72 of your textbook, that question number 8 is given. The paragraph is given related to heat resistant box, heat exchange. So the paragraph is given, and below that 4 questions are given. Now, whatever that 4 questions are there, it is depend on that paragraph itself. So that is why I told you, first you have to understand the paragraph. If the concept is clear, then easily you can answer, because if you don't, because the heading is not given there. So if you read the textbook properly, if you understand the concept properly, then it will be very easy for you to answer the questions, whatever the questions are given there. So all 4 questions answer is there itself in the paragraph, whatever paragraph is given. So if you want, you can have a screenshot. You can take a screenshot. I have shared the PPT of that answer, whatever the 4 questions are. So you can just have a screenshot of that, of that 4 questions. It is there in front of you. You can take a screenshot.
Take the screenshots. It's very useful for you. You can write it down in your notebooks and then you can study. So no need of finding out the answers again for you. It will be easier. Sir has given you the complete ready-made solution. One more child, Afreen. Afreen, unmute yourself. Afreen, yes.
Teacher, can you show me a question number 1 and question number 4?
Okay.
Question number 1 on.
Just short.
Okay, you can have a screenshot. The question number 4 is there in front of you. You can have a screenshot of that. While deciding the unit for heat, which temperature interval is chosen. So you can have a screenshot. It is there in front of you. Question number 4.
Question number 1.
And question number 1 is filling the blanks. So that is all. Filling the blanks and rewrite the sentences.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other students? Any other students? Still, if you're having any doubts or any question marks, or you have to take the screenshots. Okay, sir. No one is raising their hands now. I hope everything is clear to them, as you have explained the topic very nicely, which is really a very difficult topic for our students. Our students means 10th standard students, but still you have explained it pictorial basis. You have explained each and every part of the topic very nicely and along with question answers. It was very nice, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, students.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Students, for today we'll wind up over here.